ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO and founder of Christian Koenigsegg.
In the year 2025, moreover, it is not merely an additional update.
Most powerful homologated
I said to myself, I probably can build this first prototype car with the money I've got, and I'll do it in a year. I probably can find some people that can help me with some chassis development, with some design work, building off of my drawings, and I think I can do it in 1 year. Looking back at that, that was of course insanity. But at the time it seemed reasonable. Words such as new engine, wipe the floor, and electric cars have begun to circulate in the conversation following a comment made by the CEO himself that was enigmatic. I have started my first company when I was 19. It was a trading company, had nothing to do with cars or design or anything like that. But I realized if I want to start my car company, I need to make some money. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I was never very interested in school. It was a modest decision that may completely change all that we believed we knew about the future of performance. There was no showy launch and there was no teaser campaign. Believing that the electric vehicle race has already been won is a mistake, because Koenigsegg may be on the verge of accomplishing something that is inconceivable. Nobody is prepared for what is going to happen after this. The skill of moving quickly, the preoccupation that Koenigsegg has with electricity, Koenigsegg has never been one to pursue trends from the very beginning. At the same time, when the rest of the automotive industry was preoccupied with chasing lap times with bloated technical teams and badge status, Christian von Koenigsegg was operating a modest plant in Ängelholm, Sweden, where he was constructing rockets that were disguised as automobiles. There are no vast marketing budgets, there is no heritage to rely on, simply one mission that is unrelenting, to demonstrate that a single company is capable of out-engineering the industry giants. You must develop the most cutting-edge and fastest machinery on the planet. The first automobile, the CC8S, served as a sign of caution. It was then that the CCR appeared, which for a brief period of time was the fastest production automobile in the world. However, it was not until the invention of the Agera RS that people all over the world began to pay attention. It broke the record for the fastest production automobile speed in the year 2017 to 269.9 miles per hour without breaking a sweat. Not only did it triumph over the rivals, but it additionally humiliated them. In the meantime, Koenigsegg was out there rewriting the rules of physics while everyone else was talking about torque and traction control. On the other hand, this preoccupation with speed was never solely about performance in all directions. Every aspect, from the monocoque bathtub to the triplex suspension, was designed with a particular philosophy in mind. Everything needs to be geared towards performance, and everything that is not going to work is out. There are no gimmicks or filler, it is just pure engineering, and that is what sets Koenigsegg apart from rivals. Control, equilibrium, and inventiveness are more important than horsepower when it comes to this. After that, the Regera appeared on the scene, a vehicle that did not even have a conventional gearbox. Direct drive is the name that Koenigsegg gave to this breakthrough engine configuration, which completely did away with the requirement for gear changes. What is the end result? Effortless acceleration combined with hybrid torque that has the potential to turn your whole body into soup. In spite of the fact that it was equipped with 3 electric motors and a twin-turbo V8 engine, it managed to exude an air of sophistication, as if it were the world's fastest grand piano. Obviously, none of this would be significant if it were not for the man who was behind it. There is no other CEO quite like Christian. In addition to being a speed maniac and a philosopher, he is also an inventor. He once posed the question, why do we build fast cars? Since we are able to. However, this does not imply that it is risky. For every instance of insanity, there is a reason behind it. Thermodynamics, power-to-weight ratios, and the question of how to extract more energy from less fuel are all topics that captivate his attention. Even more impressive is the fact that he is one of the only individuals who can draw out an idea for an engine on a serviette and then watch it come to life 6 months later. A process that takes years and involves trial and error, failure, reinvention, and ultimately perfection is what lies behind each and every Koenigsegg model after it has reached the point of perfection. Begin again, because in their universe the concept of good enough is meaningless. It is for this reason that they custom-make components that other manufacturers subcontract. They come up with their own carbon fiber technique for this reason. For the sole purpose of producing titanium exhaust tips, they constructed a 3D printer. An additional second is shaved off the track for every shortcut that is avoided. By adopting this mentality, Koenigsegg was able to transform itself from a manufacturer of boutique supercars into a brand that causes Ferrari and Bugatti to lose their sleep. While the industry is currently plunging headfirst into an electric future, Koenigsegg has stayed cautious, not unwilling, but systematic. This is in contrast to the industry norm, mostly due to the fact that Christian is aware of something that many people are not: speed is not enough to win the war on its own. Doing so is innovation. It is not always the case that the fastest car is the one that is capable of reaching speeds of 300 miles per hour on paper. Rather, it is the one that has the courage to question, what if we did things completely differently? Koenigsegg is tirelessly pursuing the answer to that question. In addition, it appears that they have been working on a solution that is completely different from anything that we have seen in the past, one that has the potential to not just raise the bar, but also completely change the course of the game. We will, however, get to that. The only thing that you need to know right now is this: undoubtedly, Koenigsegg is up to no good once more. The game has arrived, a vehicle for the family. Follow the monster. People were under the impression that Koenigsegg was playing a joke when he revealed the Gemera, a Grand Tourer with 4 seats, manufactured by the same company that creates automobiles with doors resembling those of fighter jets, at speeds that astound NASA. Simply put, it was illogical, up until the point where it happened. It was not a compromise that
Due
the
to the
Gemera
fact that
Koenigsegg was not simply
taking
producing
a
a
risk.
family car. They were
The
working
car
on
was
the
not
automobile
designed
for
to
the
be balanced
family,
in any
one
way.
that could
Its
accommodate
purpose
4
was to create
passengers
a
in a comfortable
contradiction.
manner, transport
From
luggage,
opulence
and
to
still
insanity.
outperform a Bugatti
A
Chiron
combination
in terms
of
of
power and
acceleration.
practicability.
And it all began beneath the surface of the skin. Koenigsegg chose to present the world with the tiny friendly giant, often known as TFG for short, rather than opting for a large V12 engine or a cumbersome electric vehicle arrangement. With a capacity of 2.0 L and 3 cylinders, that alone caused people to take notice. The fact that it was capable of doing things, however, caused jaws to drop. Twin turbochargers and camless free valve technology are responsible for the 600 horsepower. It is only software that controls each valve in real time. There are no cams or belts involved. There was a possibility that the engine would breathe differently or shut off cylinders in the middle of the drive depending on how hard you hit it. It was not simply clever, it was also quite little. Moreover, it is really effective. There was more to this than just the internal combustion engine, of course, because Koenigsegg was aware that electric vehicles were the way of the future. They installed 3 motors, one for each of the rear wheels and one on the crankshaft. It was possible for the Gemera to generate up to 1,700 horsepower. When combined with the TFG, it could operate solely on electric power, solely on petrol power, or a combination of the two for a ferocious acceleration. In addition, despite the fact that it was a plug-in hybrid, it did not provide any concern for your range anxiety. When the tank was full and the battery was charged, it had a total range of more than 600 miles, all the way from Stockholm to Paris in a single trip without any sluggishness. The design was the next step. The first thing that came to mind was that it was a Koenigsegg, seductive, low, and violent. On the other hand, you became aware of the enormous clamshell doors. There was no B-pillar. The entire side of the vehicle opened up like a sci-fi airlock, revealing a cabin that had the atmosphere of a more traditional Scandinavian lounge than that of a hypercar. The 4 bucket chairs are each distinct. Complete information and entertainment for both the front and the back. Cup holders are available in a Koenigsegg. There are, in fact, genuine cup holders. The person was unaware of the ridiculousness. The control, on the other hand, was what made it successful. The Gemera was not a boat despite the fact that it was quite large and heavy. Because of active rear-wheel steering, torque vectoring, and a carbon mono chassis, it had the handling of a car that was 30% smaller than its actual size. In spite of everything, it was still a Koenigsegg, activated, responsive, and sharp. While other manufacturers were still trying to figure out how to make electric SUVs handle like sports cars, Koenigsegg had already created a 4-seater that could drift around curves while still being able to accommodate Granny in the back seat. On the other hand, as is customary with Koenigsegg, there is more going on than initially appears. Even the initial specs for the Gemira were not the final configuration. Rumors from the plant suggested about the existence of a variant that possessed much greater power, some other kind of engine. It would be something that would completely transform the platform. And in the year 2023, they proved it by providing the choice of the hot V8 engine that was found in the Jesco. This meant that a family car could produce 2,300 horsepower. In all seriousness, no, there was no intention of pursuing EVs in order to stay ahead of them. It was necessary. As the world continued to wait for Koenigsegg to transition to an entirely electric vehicle, the company continued to demonstrate to the industry that there is still a more intelligent method, ways that are more exciting. One that does not rely on large batteries or artificial noise, but rather the true mechanical drama that it offers, having exactly the right amount of voltage to make the whole thing even more terrifying. The Gemira showcased Koenigsegg's ability to accomplish the seemingly impossible, integrate performance that breaks records with the usability of ordinary items. On the other hand, those with knowledge of the situation claim that the Gemira might possibly serve as a testing ground for something even more radical, due to the fact that a fresh recipe has been being developed behind the scenes, one that does not only test the limits of authority, it pays no attention to them at all. Transforming the standard, it is the motor of dark matter. In the past, Koenigsegg has never been afraid to do things in their own unique way. However, when it came to the dark matter motor, they did not simply take a step outside the norm, it was vaporized by them. The message was made abundantly obvious when the business presented this design for the manufacturing version of the Gemira, which had a single electric motor configuration. Leave your knowledge of electric vehicle powertrains behind. However, this was a whole different issue. Let us begin with the fundamentals. At least on paper, dark matter is a 6-phase axial flux motor that combines radial and axial flux designs into a single device that is exceedingly compact and extremely efficient. 800 horsepower and 1,250 nanometers of torque are delivered by it. This is the result of a single motor. There are no dual motors. It is not a trap. Simply put, it is a package that is compact enough to fit within a carry-on bag, yet it contains raw, concentrated power. Welcome to the world of Koenigsegg. If you think it sounds like science fiction, the vast majority of manufacturers continue to adhere to the conventional 3-phase motor designs. Without a doubt, they are dependable, but they have some limitations in terms of scalability and efficiency. The 6-phase architecture of Koenigsegg distributes the workload more equally, which results in a reduction in heat and an increase in torque delivery across the majority of the board. Consequently, this results in a reduced number of moving components, a reduced amount of heat soak, and a more constant performance regardless of whether you are driving through town or jumping off the line as if your life depended on it. Not only is the design imaginative, but it is also strategic. Packaging, in order to achieve extreme torque vectoring or exact power management, area for Koenigsegg to experiment with alternative realization that they did not require several motors. That which it replaced is what makes possible to achieve real-time response with nearly little energy loss. In the first prototype of the Gemira, which works in 3 electric motors with the proprietary torque converter and inverter technology developed by Koenigsegg. The setup was every surge of strength, but it added both weight and complication to the situation. Each and every nook and cranny is managed with surgical precision. Koenigsegg was able to produce higher output due to the motor's diminutive size. It frees up space that may be utilized for it to occur by any means. When everything is called into question and rebuilt from the ground up, this is what happens. In his own words, Christian von Koenigsegg referred to the dark matter system as a completely novel path. What he said was true. Indeed, it is not merely a component, it is a way of thinking. Efficiency is preferable to excess. Precision outweighs quantity. Koenigsegg, on the other hand, refines, streamlines, and simplifies without making any concessions. Whilst other companies put more hardware at the problem, it is the kind of engineering that causes other businesses to feel uneasy, not because they are unable to comprehend it, but rather because they are unable to imitate it. The figures on a spec sheet are not the only thing that matters, of course. What makes black matter so beautiful is the way it makes you feel. The torque is instantaneous. There is no lag. Do not be hesitant. The acceleration is only quiet and violent, and it appears to defy the laws of physics that are normally in place. A motor that is powered by electricity should have always been like this. It is not a limiter but rather an enabler. Koenigsegg has just reminded everyone that electricity does not have to be dull, which is a reminder in a world when most electric vehicles are beginning to seem frighteningly identical. But let me tell you something, however, dark matter is not the end of the race. It is all about the setup. If Koenigsegg went to such great lengths to develop a hybrid application that could accommodate an 800 horsepower motor, then what other projects are they working on behind closed doors? Could you please tell me what is in the prototype lab? If this is the production version, what are the tests that are being performed on the dynos that no one is permitted to see? The dark matter motor may only be touching the surface of what Koenigsegg is planning. According to rumors that have been circulating within the company, there are many who believe that it is a bridge, a stepping stone, or a prelude to something that is much more radical. Are you listening, Christian? He has been very quiet about it, with the exception of one curious comment. In terms of what this technology is capable of, we have only just started to investigate it. This is the Hot V8. It is a hybrid that conceals a monster. If the dark matter motor was Koenigsegg's love letter to electronic precision, then the optional V8 engine for the GEM era, which they referred to as the Hot V8, was their unashamed return to combustion through brute force. Simply uttering the name is enough to make one feel enraged. And why not? This was not a typical V8 engine. It was taken directly from the Jesko, which is widely considered to be one of the most brutal hypercars ever constructed. At this point, however, it was being provided in a vehicle that had cup holders. During a period in which the majority of automobile manufacturers are gradually abandoning internal combustion engines, Koenigsegg achieved something that nobody anticipated. They went through with it. The three-cylinder free-valve engine that was featured in the first generation of the GEM era was already rather outstanding. However, Koenigsegg was aware that some of his clients desired more. In order to accomplish this, they modified the rear end of the GEM era, removed the storage space in the back seat, and stuffed a twin-turbo 5.0L V8 engine into the chassis. What is the end result? There is a family automobile that has 1,500 horsepower that comes solely from the engine. There are no concessions. No fake noise. Simply cacophony that is genuine, unrepentant, and hair-raising. Moreover, here is the clincher, not even close to being the complete tale. This updated iteration of the GEM era was able to deliver a total output of 2,300 horsepower and 2,750 Newton-meters of torque when it was linked with the dark matter electric motor. Simply said, that is not a number. The power that is generated by a four-seater on-road legal tires is greater than the power that is generated by the majority of full-size semis. However, the raw power of the Hot V8 was not the only factor that added to its uniqueness. In this manner, Koenigsegg constructed it after recycling an old engine. They did not simply stop there and call it a day. For the purpose of integrating the Hot V8 with the hybrid system of the GEM era, careful modifications were made. It is lighter than anticipated, designed with a lower center of gravity. This vehicle prioritizes responsiveness above speed, and each and every component, from the turbos to the crankshaft, was created in-house. Throughout the entire process, the shelves were empty of anything. It was even the sound that had its own personality. A roaring Hot V8 engine can be heard while electric motors hum. An important reminder is what Koenigsegg provides, and the art of driving is not solely about numbers. This is the kind of noise that causes car alarms to go off in parking garages, and the sensation that you are part of something that is alive are all important. It was possible for Koenigsegg to demonstrate in the same way that everyone else feel like compromises in order to be enjoyable. They could have added false tones. In the realm of Koenigsegg, they did not. Hybrid is a strategic advantage. Simply put, why would you want to muffle the sound of a V8 that can combine the explosive power of combustion with the immediate torque that electric driving provides? Is what gives this arrangement. You receive the benefits of both without the restrictions. It is the exact antithesis of what the industry is trying to achieve. In contrast to the majority of plug-in hybrids, on the other hand, it could turn out to be the most astute decision was developed from the ground up to function as a single. It is true that electric vehicles are rapid, but many of them have a sterile feel to them. Despite the extreme nature of this engine, when the novelty wears off, the excitement begins to ebb away. Temporary. One could almost say that it was a stepping stone. The statement was never made by Christian von Koenigsegg to be the conclusive one. However, when he was being interviewed, he made sure to mention that it was only one of the many different configurations that the company was investigating. This raises the question of why anything of this magnitude would be created only to imply that there is more to come. Perhaps the scorching V8 was not intended to be the crown jewel of the vehicle. Is it possible that this is merely the noisy distraction that comes before the subtle revolution? Something to keep people engaged while the true breakthrough is being perfected during the course of the covert operation. Considering that Koenigsegg is now providing this level of firepower, what are they planning to release in the near future? This is Koenigsegg's quiet assault on the electric vehicle world. While the industry rushes toward full electrification, Christian von Koenigsegg has taken a different route, one defined by precision, purpose, and resistance to conformity. He doesn't reject electrification outright. Koenigsegg's hybrids feature cutting-edge motors, plug-in capability, and energy innovation. But he constantly asks a question the industry ignores: what are we sacrificing in the name of EV purity? Koenigsegg's Regera skipped the traditional gearbox for seamless hybrid power, while the Jesko and Gemira fused insane combustion engineering with electric mastery. His cars remain lighter, more efficient, and more thrilling than many fully